Thank you very much for showing interest in this webinar session and joining in. My name is Nontle Memela. I am the program manager from eThekwini Municipality in South Africa, and I am responsible for the Cooperatives Development Program, whereby we provide interventions for cooperatives through various skills, such as access to industry skills, access to finance, and access to markets. The Global Social Economy Forum has provided this platform an opportunity for the youth whom are actively participating and those who have an initiative in mind in the field of social and solidarity economy to actually speak up and share with the world as how they will contribute or how they actually intend to contribute to a more sustainable community. And just in providing you with the background and introduction into our session, the social and solidarity economy provides a new important pathway to transforming the world into a sustainable and inclusive one. Well, these days, local circular economy is catching people's attention with a focus on local production, local consumption, and employment within the local community. It also matches one of the characteristics of SSEs, which emphasizes the importance of economic activities in building local roots. Also, youth have been highly involved, actually around the world, youth have been highly involved in SSE sector. About 20% of the social enterprises are led by individuals younger than 35, and that's in India. In Korea on its own, 28% of social enterprises are launched by founders between ages of 20 to 29, while 49% of the social enterprises founders are between the ages of 30 to 39. In Quebec on its own, 36% of employees in the social economy sector is 18%, and those who sit on the government boards are age of 35 and less. Therefore, the Global Social Economy Forum sees the importance of youth in leading a vibrant social and solidarity economy movement where they can provide their innovative ideas in terms of collaborative action and application on new technology. Well, actually, in today's session, we look at youth-led circular economy for our society and environment for the era of the new normal. In doing so today, we have to understand that it has to be a very informative session that will lead us to the key takeaways of this session. One of the key takeaways is that it's the learning about the adventures from young SSEs, entrepreneurs in Africa, Asia, Europe, and developing local circular economy. Also, one of the key takeaways will be understanding the social and environmental impact of local circular economy for our community in the post-COVID-19 era. Also, finding out the needs and vision of youth participating in SSE activities. Well, that is our introduction for today, and I am excited to say this is going to be one of the most informative sessions. And now I'm going to introduce to you our first speaker, which is our motivational or as the speaker that will be giving us some inspiration, which is the youth activist on climate change in Korea. And she is Cherry Sung, and she is providing us with an inspiration under the topic Youth Action on Climate Change. Let our future fight for their future. I'm heading over to you, Cherry Sung.
Hello, everyone. It is an honor to speak at this meaningful forum and to voice the youth on this topic. The slides have the two quotes I want to underscore. The finite earth cannot cope with the infinite human desires, and system change, not climate change. The world has woken up to the climate crisis, the effects of which are already being felt. The IPCC, which includes more than 1,300 scientists, forecast a temperature rise of 1 to 5 to 5.5 degrees Celsius over the next century. 97% of the scientists agree that this new tendency is not caused by orbital variations, but rather very likely caused by human activities that produce greenhouse gases. Such activities are the result of our make, waste extractive economy, also known as the linear economy, which relies on fossil fuels and does not manage resources on the long term. And when it comes to climate change, the main takeaway is that it is real. And although we can take a huge part in the cause, we can also be part of the solution. People are raising their voices to tell the truth of the climate crisis. For example, in Britain, a mass organization called Extinction Rebellion has begun to engage in direct non-violent action. They occupied the roads and museums, making their voices heard throughout the country. The school strike for climate protests, initiated by a Swedish 16-year-old Greta Thunberg, are snowballing and spreading all over the world, and Korean youth have been with them since last spring. Now, I will introduce some of the actions I take to fight climate change and promote the local circular economy. As I've just shared, Korea has taken on the climate strikes, in which I have participated in 3 times. The aim of these comprehensive actions is to demand an immediate response to address climate change. People may think that the authorities are the only ones who can make practical changes, but with the strong voice from the public, they would not move. These picketing and die-in performances also share the same aim with the climate strikes. The more extraordinary our performances are, the more attention we gain from the media, bypassers, and the policymakers. And in this forum, I joined the Climate Strike Korea organization to point out the absence of a 2050 net zero goal in the long-term low emission development strategy, also known as the LEDS. This connects to the local circular economy in that there's climate policies, not just in Korea, but also just around the world, must involve local communities to increase its practicability. The green transformation cannot be achieved by a large-scale infrastructure projects alone. The involvement and efforts of the local circular economy is needed. Joining Greenpeace Korea, I've been able to take more direct actions at the National Assembly. On the top left, I did a hologram action requesting a just Green New Deal. Furthermore, I'm the representative of the future generation in the Ministry of Environment's Resource Circulation campaign. I've declared my pledge of action to promote the transition into a circular economy in Korea. Over 50 companies and organizations, including Samsung Electronics, Hyundai Motors, and LG Chemical, have joined in the signing of their pledge of action. Moving on, I've done 3 campaigns in which I've collected and returned wasteful things in the market produced just for the sake of consumerism culture. As you can see on the right, I received a handwritten letter from the chief commercial officer of a company I returned plastic straws to. By carrying these return campaigns out, I was able to communicate both directly and indirectly with big businesses. Through this experience, I learned that as a youth, I can still make a difference in a company system. Even my small actions could make a difference in society. Then now imagine how much difference can be made by a single decision of a National Assembly. At school, I've initiated a year-long collaboration with TerraCycle Korea, where students' old toothbrushes were upcycled into plant pots. Through this program, students learned that resources have better means of being discarded than going straight into the trash. Last but not least, I work actively to share information and spread knowledge by creating online media, crafting artworks, and giving both in-depth and very general speeches about environmental topics. I believe that this network of spreading information is important because realization and information are usually the genesis of action. People must discard the misconception that someone from the 7.5 billion population would just take action, because we will end up with no one taking action in the meantime. Hopefully, this explained why youth rose up to take action first. Our actions are not radical, but the climate crisis is radical. Climate change is not simply a scientific phenomenon, but rather a source of inequalities, possible economic downturns, and obstacles to life in the present and the future. My actions and initiatives pressure the authorities to make change in the existing systems and those around me to start changes in their lifestyles. They are shared rapidly and to far areas through media and public opinion. As people are exposed to how youth take action to fight climate change, their interest and awareness increases. This leads to a light that sparks solidarity, and with people joining in from around the world, the nation we grow people power, and the policymakers could not just walk over our actions. However, sometimes things don't turn out the way I planned. The best example would be the Samsung Bungang 2 coal. The Korea Development Institute, KID, preliminary survey done twice resulted in a deficit of 10.6 billion, then of 8.5 billion. Despite the expected deficit and calls for a withdrawal, KEPCO decided to participate in the design and procurement process. On October 5th, the final decision was made to take part in the Bungang 2, investing 40% of its total project cost of 2.6 trillion won. Samsung C&T vice president defended his decision, saying that we will plan to avoid the coal power plant businesses in the future. However, the paradoxical truth is there even a future when the actions in the present destroy our future? You may or may not know, but South Korea is known as the climate villain. The key of the Green New Deal is moving toward a society that emits less greenhouse gases, and the government allocates a budget of 10 trillion won. Evidently, lots of effort and money are being invested. However, if such a large-scale coal-fired power plant project is carried out, the efforts in Korea are virtually eliminated. This is because greenhouse gases, either emitted from Korea or Indonesia, ultimately contribute to climate change. Therefore, it is very regrettable that this business decision, which negated the goal of the president's Green New Deal, was made too hastily without too much thought. Now, the only way to recover the net zero progress from this decision is to make more drastic changes in our energy, labor, agricultural, and other sectors. Because we went down the road of the Green New Deal, we have to start up all over again. But why should youth take action to fight climate change? First, the future is ours. Because we reside in both the present and the future, we are the victims of our present choices. As I have presented so far, climate change imposes inequalities and discrepancies in terms of gender, race, age, wealth, etc. in our world. As teenage victims, we are able to amplify our voices to make the government recognize the urgency of the climate crisis and to respond immediately. Second, the current development seems like a disaster and it is unsustainable, both socially and environmentally. Young people in developing countries today are more likely to feel the impact of climate change on their lifestyles and livelihoods more quickly and directly than younger people in developed countries. Most young people in Africa live in rural areas where agriculture, which is extremely vulnerable to climate related damage, accounts for 65% of total employment. In the short term, agricultural production is threatened by more soil degradation and erosion, crop damage, and reduced harvest resulting from extreme weather events such as droughts, heat waves, and severe storms and floods. Because of these threats, many young people are migrating to cities and other countries. Since most of the allowable carbon emission to cope with the climate crisis have already been exhausted, the emissions allowed for youth today are extremely small compared to the previous generation. To keep the 2-degree goal, generations who grew up in 2017 would have to emit only 122 tons in their lifetime, equivalent to 1/3 of the amount produced by people born in 1950. Since carbon dioxide remains in the atmosphere for hundreds of years and continues to affect climate change, the future generation have to face the climate risk posed by greenhouse gases emitted by previous generations. If nothing is done right now, the future generation will have to navigate a dangerous path through the difficult and harsh ordeal of the older generation. By 2050, the global demand for industrial materials such as steel, cement, aluminum, and plastics is projected to increase by a factor of 2 to 4. This amplifies the need for the world's transition into a circular economy to overpass the speedy increase of greenhouse gas emissions. Yet, it is not the time to lose hope. Youth has proven to come up with more creative ideas that make changes in human history. The social and solidarity economy, also called SSC, refers to organizations and enterprises that are based on principles of solidarity and participation, and that produce goods and services while pursuing both economic and social aims. The SSC encompasses a dynamic and evolving groups of actors that all promote and run economic organizations that are people-centered. The circular economy refers to an economic approach that contributes to a more sustainable development, inspired by the working of natural ecosystems where nothing is wasted because one person's rubbish becomes another's raw material. The circular economy is based on the optimization of the productivity of resources that are already circulating in the market. Unlike the mainstream classical economy, the corporate social responsibility, or the sustainable development system, the SSC seeks maximum social impact and minimum environmental impact for the production of goods and services. In a social and solidarity economy, social and environmental considerations are put above profit maximization. Once again, the keys to the SSD are cooperation, solidarity, equity, and self-management. In this respect, a circular economy model and the SSC can exist lastingly only if people take hold of the subject. Local collaborative projects make it possible to directly involve citizens in the transition and thus should be encouraged. And where does youth come into picture? The SSC is one of the methodologies of climate action. By taking action, youth links the environment with the local circular economy. The actions and initiatives that I've outlined in the beginning all attribute to the local circular economy. In a social and solidarity economy, its actors are the pioneers of the transition movement and the world of tomorrow. The only support that young actors need is the government actions and action now. Youth are raising our voices not for the present, but also their future, but barely any progress has been made regarding the combat against climate change. It is because the full authority is in the policymakers' hands. And that is why it is necessary to involve young people who will live in the future as stakeholders when establishing climate change policies and transitioning into a social and solidarity economy. In addition, this participation should be guaranteed as a permanent right. So the world should listen to the youth, act now upon what we request, and involve youth in all processes of transition. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed.
Thank you very much, Cherry Sung, for that enlightening presentation and seeing how the youth are actually very much striving to take action in promoting the circular economy. I've noted some very good key tech points from your presentation, like when you said the youth, they're actually amplifying the voices and they're actually promoting both social and economic needs. So there's a match there. Both needs to be done. And then also optimizing resources that are already available in the market through cooperation, solidarity. Thank you very much, Cherry Sung, for that enlightening presentation and seeing how the youth are actually very much striving to take action in promoting the circular economy. I've noted some very good key tech points from your presentation, like when you said the youth, they're actually amplifying the voices and they're actually promoting both social and economic needs. So there's a match there. Both needs to be done. And then also optimizing resources that are already available in the market through cooperation, solidarity, equity, and self-management. I think you'll still be with us through the session for when the Q&A comes up, and I'll be able to pose questions for you during the Q&A session. Thank you very much for that presentation, Cherry Sung. And now we move on to our next speakers who will be giving us an insight on actions by youth actors of SSEs to boost local circular economy. Actually, these cases that are going to be presented now by the next speakers is that the enterprises are using local products being initiated and operated by the local people and creating local employment in their business actions. Therefore, these initiatives actually help and build local circular economy through local production, consumption, and employment, etc., which also demonstrates the potential of SSEs as an alternative of a global value chain in the community. Now I'd like to introduce to you my second speaker of the day, and I'd like to introduce to you the CEO of Tech Prom Lab in Indonesia, and that is Aniza Aziza.
Thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you very much for this. So hi, my name is Anissa, and I'm from Tech From Lab from Indonesia. It is very interesting because some of the aspect from Cherry's presentation is actually in mine. So let me share you about my initiative in contributing to the sustainable goals. The first question that we had in mind when we started this initiative or the startup is, what if we can utilize hazardous waste to solve one of the most devastating disasters in Indonesia, while at the same time empowering small medium enterprise or the local companies in Indonesia. So the waste that we're talking about is actually the waste from the coal power plant that Charis mentioned before. So Indonesia is also still use coal as our primary source of energy. And this power plant produce 10,000 tons of the waste per year, and it only dumped in the landfills. And it contaminate our lands and waters and also harms people. And the second problem is the flood. Flood in Indonesia, it's the most frequent disaster. It causes death, displacement, and also economic losses. And the third problem that we are trying to solve is the stagnation of the local companies or the small medium enterprise. So these companies doesn't have the power or the resource for innovation or to do their own research, that that make them stagnant, and they compete only in the price aspect. So they're going through a price war with their in the industry, and it's not very beneficial for them. So what we do, we create this porous concrete that can allow water to infiltrate into the soil and thus reduce flood. And we create this from the coal-fired power plant waste, and we produce it through collaboration with the local companies. So these are, we use the waste as our raw materials to produce the porous concrete that can reduce flood, and through technology transfer to the local companies. So I want to share about the perspective of each aspect that we're doing. And I want to share it from the perspective of the impact perspective and also the business perspective. Because if we want to set an initiative, I really think that we should consider the business part, because if we want the initiative to go for a long time, then we should really consider where the money come from, right? So I want to collaborate or seeing the two perspective of each aspect. The first one is when we use waste as our raw material, the impact perspective is clear. Well, we reduce potential hazardous contamination on land and water. We are reducing potential harms to human, and also we substitute cement that causes up to 8% of the global CO2 emissions, right? But from the business perspective, it is also prospective, but it's also beneficial to the business perspective, because when we use waste, the waste is cheap. Sometimes it's free because the waste is unwanted, and it also relatively easy to obtain because the coal waste producer eagerly seek for companies who want to utilize the waste. So both of the impact and the business perspective is it's good in this aspect. And then the second is when we choose to solve the flood issues by innovating the concrete, that we make a porous concrete to allow water to run through. From the impact perspective, it's also clear that by using the porous concrete, it will reduce the rainwater runoff because it allows rainwater to infiltrate the soil. It also reduces potential of flooding, and it increases water reserve. But because we want it to be, widely used in our country, we have to make it functional as well. So we made the porous concrete strong. It can be used for a light to medium good vehicle up to 8,000 kilograms, so that it can be functional as pavement that made it can enter one of the biggest market in Indonesia, the construction market. And we also make it in the form of concrete blocks, and we use the similar action when we try to produce and implement it, because we want it to be easy to enter the market. And the last aspect is when we collaborate with the local companies, the small medium enterprise, by transferring our technology, it created impact as well. Like we added value to the small medium enterprise, and also we introducing a research culture to them. The director of the small medium enterprise actually give us an insight that she said the worker become curious about the product and willing to improve it themselves. And when we heard that, we are really grateful, because not only we can, in the business perspective, we collaborate to produce the product, but we share our culture, share our research culture to them, that is previously they have no idea about. So, but also in the business perspective, by using this method, collaborating with local companies is also beneficial, because the construction industry is a region-bound industry. It is not very efficient if you want to build your house in Indonesia, but then you import the building material from Korea. So it is more cost-effective to collaborate with local companies to produce the building materials, right? And the second one is by engaging the worker, like when you do the transfer technology to them, you can maintain the collaboration into a long-term one. So it is also beneficial from the business perspective. So that's what we're doing, and I want to share about who's behind the team. So here's my team, and most of us are from researcher. So actually, the founder and the advisor are from the same laboratory in our university. So we come from the laboratory of advancing material processing laboratory. And when we are creating Power Block, actually we have create the Power Block, but we don't know how to implement it. We have no experience or knowledge about the industry. So but it turns out it also become a good thing. I will discuss about it later. And the second one is what I want to highlight about my team is, beside the advisor, the co-founder and the management are all below 25 years old. It also become an advantage for us because of the young age of us. So what's the advantage of having young people in my team is about the young people think outside the box and connect the dots. Why? Because, well, we are surrounded by information, right? We all have the information from social media, from the internet, from everywhere. But young people have, we accustomed to this information and actually can pick the information we need that is beneficial for the startup. So I think we are more accustomed to it than our older generation. And because we are researcher, a different aspect from the construction industry, we new to the industry, but because of we don't know the best practice of the elder generation in the industry, we can freely think out of the box. With the fast information that we had, we can actually create or innovate the system in our companies that is not necessarily have to be the same with the previous one in the construction industry. And the young people actually do the hard work and willing to go extra miles. For this statement, actually, my professor, the advisor of our company, is having a lot of invention, but he doesn't have the time and the right team to do it. So when young people like us, his student asking him that we want to implement Power Block together, he's very thrilled, and he's actually looking for young people to do that, because he doesn't have time to do all the business part, the market research, the all of it. So his inventions is just sitting there in the lab without being implemented, and he needs young people to do it. He needs another people who want to work hard and willing to go the extra miles to really implement that. And the last one, what I want to share is about collaboration. In our experience, we think that to implement this circular economy, we really need collaboration um, for academia, like the one who got the expert on the area, and also from the business part, because we really want the initiative to go longer, right? And also from the government, because we need regulation to support us, and also the media. The media can have a greater role in this aspect, because as a young people, sometimes my personal experience is that the society doesn't trust us enough to do all the hard work to really contribute to the problem. They will see us from the perspective of, well, young generation. It's only idealist. Like we can talk about many things, but really doesn't execute anything. So if the media can um, give us exposure on the what a good thing that we can really do, maybe the society will accept us more and then support us to actually giving a difference in this world. So I think that's all for me. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Anissa Aziza, for that presentation. I must say you've taken a very good strategy in terms of executing your plans for your SSEs, whereby you are having the long-term collaborations with local companies for production. And also with the fact that there's an advantage there of having advisors within your SSE, and also which are industry experts, because they have all the knowledge, but they're sitting with the knowledge without action. So as the young youth out there, you are able to actually take that information and put it into action and make it live. And also as young people, you are still very much active, as you've indicated in your presentation, and also in connecting the dots of the available information. So that's very good execution plan that you've taken within your SSE. We will take questions for you during the Q&A session as well. Right now, I would also like to introduce our third speaker for the day. That is Seo Young Nam, whom is the CEO of Bally's in Korea. Seo Young Nam, I'll take over to you, please.
Hello, my name is Seo Nam. I'm working for Bally's. And so in the 1960s, there was some fish and that were imported from overseas, but unfortunately they are now becoming highly disturbant fish in the fresh waters of Korea, and they are now leading to the reduction of the population of indigenous fish. And so a lot of the taxpayer money is being invested into the projects trying to deal with the bass and the bluegill, which are threatening the local environment. And so Bally's basically through the local governments is reusing or recycling the discarded or killed fish. And so we are now recycling these kind of fish to provide pet food. So at the moment, the global market is about 3 trillion Korean won, and the Korean pet market is also becoming very large. And so you can see that according to the statistics, about 60% of the pet food is imported. Reason is that high performance pet food is not being produced here in Korea, which is why a majority of it is being imported. And so a lot of the companies in Korea are using the raw materials like black soldier fly and medicinal herbs to produce high performance pet food, but they have not been able to gain a lot of competitiveness. And so what Bally's is doing is that we developed a certain technology to be able to extract the oil like taurine and omega-3 and vitamin E from the fish to be able to produce high performance pet food. And we collaborated with the Konkuk University. And so we were able to come up with products that were less costly but more better in performance compared to other competitors. And so we have been able to produce these types of food, and we are still researching into making better pet food. And so we are witnessing a growth in our revenue, and we are expecting to record a revenue for 2020 of 250 billion Korean won. And this year we are seeing the fastest growth in revenue. And we are trying to sophisticate our channels, and we are using an open market. We also have our own shopping mall, and we are selling a variety of different products through different channels. In the case of Bally's, we manufacture pet food, but we also have a curative shopping mall called the Market Kung. We also have a franchise where we'll be able to provide highly functional feed. And so we are looking into entering the Southeast Asian market as well as the Japanese and Chinese market. And we are also looking towards entering the US market as well. So in the process of getting various certifications to make that possible. And so by 2023, we are aiming for a revenue of 20 billion Korean won, and we'll be able to break even quite soon. And to be able to do this in 2021, by May, we are going to enhance the capacity, and we are going to also get more investment. And so on top of this kind of revenue growth, we're also looking into employment growth, creating jobs, and also creating value. So we are trying to decrease the cost of the recycling. We're trying to create more income for fishermen, and we are also looking into protecting abandoned animals. And so we are going to enhance the total social value by up to about 1.3 trillion won by 2023. And so we are looking into increasing profit of corporation Bally's and thereby continue creating social value. So we want to become a social venture company or startup company, going beyond just manufacturing pet food. We also want to look into the issues of how the environment and ecosystem is being destroyed. We believe that no life was born just to die as waste. And so that's basically our mission. And we are continuing to upcycle the fish to that end. So this brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Si Young Nam, for that presentation. I did hear that you have another schedule for today, so you cannot stay with us for the Q&A session. Therefore, your colleagues will stay behind to take the questions, and they will also answer on your behalf. Well, thank you very much for that insightful presentation. I mean, your work is very diverse in the production line based on the variety of products you have in the market. You know, you've really stretched your initiatives and put them into action. I must say that's very well done for the country and the youth in action. Thank you for that, So Young Nam. I would like to now introduce our next speaker, which is our last speaker, which is the Moonlight Initiative from Kenya.
Hello guys, I will apologize because I'm using my phone and I'm in an active training right now.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Andati Morris from Moonlight Initiative. Moonlight Initiative is a circular economy consultancy that really focuses on bamboo propagation, bamboo planting, and all the way the bamboo value chain. So our key objectives is to make sure that we empower young people at community level on how they can use bamboo for climate action and also in terms of production and production of items, different items like seeds and also household items. So Moonlight Initiative started when we started looking at how we are being affected by climate action through the rivers flooding and removing rice, especially here in Kisumu. So it started there. Then we moved from different trees, normal trees. So we started planting eucalyptus trees and different types of trees. But the disadvantage of these trees we came to realize was it was really not helping in terms of claiming the climate, and also it was really difficult for us to create a circular economy aspect towards especially young people at community level. So that is why now we ended up now start using bamboo. So through our trainings and different engagements that we had, we came to notice that bamboo, number one, because it is a grass and it is easy for it to grow, then it was easy for us to engage number one farmers. So they can use it for either conservation or for commercial purposes. So also looking at also the time that is given for bamboo. Bamboo takes a minimum of 3 years, which means after 18 months it is mature for different circular economy, and by the time it reaches 3 to 4 years, it is also mature for furniture and also building. So looking at these, it was easy for us to say, then now under the value addition, we can now engage young people. Apart from those who don't want to engage in farming, we can add them under the value addition and they can create different products as early as 18 months when they've already planted. So through these, we could see and we could engage young people freely. And those who really didn't even have farms or who have small scale farms, it was easy to engage them. Thus bringing in different perspective from large scale farmers all the way to small scale farmers. When you're looking at also the number of young people in Africa and especially here in Kenya, where we have almost 60% of the population being young. So it was really difficult for us to start having different engagements. But bamboo was easy to engage these young people because its value chain is really huge. All the way from 18 months until 4 years, you can get products and you can make money out of bamboo. So that is why now Moonlight Initiative are engaged in these three areas. That is farming, that is value addition, and also processing. So for farming, we partner with local farmers, that is small scale farmers, all the way to large scale farmers. For value addition, we majorly focus on young people, where now we train them, we give them trainings for free. Then these training that they're using, these items that they're going to create from bamboo, they have to do it practically, and we support them in terms of growing these enterprises. So apart from just training them and everything, we're also giving them the market where now they can sell this product. Because when you want to notice, bamboo is still a new crop, and it is something that is really still being adopted in Kenya. So our main aim is to make sure that by the time it is something that is running and it is making money, young people are the key players in terms of in terms of its propagation and also its value addition. Then lastly, we are also looking at processing, where processing, we're looking at different companies. So we are partnering as Moonlight Initiative, we're partnering with different countries here in Kenya, in different companies that focuses on using bamboo in terms of creating different products. So we have an example of an organization called EcoPole, which one creates electric poles using bamboo. So we work with them to make sure that young people have the internship programs there, and they are, at the end of the day, if they've done the internship programs, the bamboo that they have planted, they can sell to these industries and they can make money out of it. So through this, when we were engaging young people, we came to notice that it was a little bit difficult in terms of engaging people at free and also discussing with them. So we started engaging them at a volunteer level, where these volunteers were training them to use that small space that they have at community level. So we engage them as volunteers. We ask them to give us the land. Then for us, we give them seeds for free. When they've already given these seeds and also the seedlings for free, then they're the ones who train their community members. So we are using them as volunteers who train their community members. When they already train their community members, the seedlings from their spaces are the ones now they sell. We buy from them, then distribute to these people that they have trained. So creating a circular economy system where now, apart from them just selling, they can get one or two, or they can get money out of it. So when we engage at a volunteer program, we also have employees under our organization. So we have 10 young people who are consultants who are focusing in number one, agroforestry. Then number two, in terms of economics, who help us in terms of training community members on the circular economy aspects of bamboo and making sure that these young people can create money, or they can make money through bamboo, not just by planting, but also different products that they're going to have. So Moonlight Initiative focuses on number one, agroforestry, and number two, training. So our training is we mobilize different young people at community level. It doesn't matter if you have passed your exams, it doesn't matter which kind of papers you have. If you're just a young person at community level, we do not really judge. So if you have a small piece of land, even if it is just a 10 square feet, we mobilize you, we train you, and make sure that at the end of the day, you can make money out of whatever space that you have. So apart from that, apart from training, we also do agroforestry, where now we have nurseries where we invite young people to come and pick the seedlings. So if we train you for a period of 1 week, we give you seedlings for free. And these seedlings, you have to propagate them in your small space. After you've already propagated it in your small space, then now we create market for you. So at the end of the day, our end goal is to make sure that these young people by the time you reach at 18 months, you are starting to make money. So the benefit of this was through the government lately. The president was able to now to push for the policy implementation of bamboo, and now bamboo has been accepted as a cash crop in Kenya, which is something that is really positive for us, and it is really positive for young people who are also engaging us, and now they can now starting working hard on in terms of planting bamboo. So after this was passed, we have three main areas that we really wanted, and really young people really wanted to be supported in terms of circular economy. So looking at training. So most young people are really engaging in different activities, especially in bamboo, but they really need that training to make sure I'm not spoiling that bamboo, or I'm not wasting, or someone is not buying bamboo at a very low price that at the end of the day I'm not making money out of it. So we train these young people on this. So we also request that even different stakeholders can come and also train these young people. Then number two is also resource mobilization. The reality of the matter is, for young people, it is really hard to resource mobilize, especially at this point, because number one, you don't have the money, and number two, you don't even have the space to put these items. So whatever Moonlight Initiative does is we mobilize different resources for these different young people who are under our enterprises at community level. So we give them tanks, we make sure that they have the tanks, we make sure they have the seeds, and we make sure they have the seedlings, so that we can reduce the startup cost, so that at the end of the day, as they're selling, they can support themselves, and make sure that they're supporting their nurseries and also their plantations. Then the last is also innovation centers. So whatever we're doing, like for example here I'm in Busia and we are having a training at an organization called EcoGreen. We are having an innovation center here that really focuses on bamboo, where we are training different young ladies on weaving, make sure they understand how they're going to do weaving, and they can use this bamboo to do weaves for baskets and different products that need weaving. Then also for boys, we're also training them on carpentry and furniture making and also crafts making for bamboo products. So these things have really helped in terms of mobilizing young people. And through our innovation centers, we have been able to reach more than 1,000 young people from last year all the way to this year. And these 1,000 young people are able to started small SMEs at different community levels where they are. So this is something that young people really need. If you have these innovation centers, they're going to they're going to move forward and they're going to think in terms of circular economy. So in terms of our reach and our plan at the end of the day to reach is, if you look at the presentation, is number one, in terms of the trainees and also the youth groups, are 4 youth groups. So right now we have 5 youth groups that we are really working with them. Number one, in different sections in Kenya and at the highland parts of Kenya and also the lowland parts of Kenya, because bamboo is grown in these both areas. So these groups right now are basically made up of young people. We have helped them in terms of registration, and right now they're running their own nurseries and seedlings, and they're selling and training other people. Then when you're looking at also for farmers, we're trying to make sure that we can reach 100 farmers, which is something that we are also achieving. And young people, especially young farmers, are really trying now to getting into bamboo, because now they can see a young person is also training them and also making sure that they understand the different aspects of bamboo. So we have these farmers, and by now we have reached a number of 50 farmers who are really young and are ready to engage in terms of large scale production of bamboo and also small scale production of bamboo. Then lastly, whatever you're going to looking at is also the the artisans based on the innovation centers. So for example, for today, we have been able to train 25 artisans, and these artisans are the ones who are going now to engage in terms of the value chain of bamboo and making sure that the crop that come from the farm goes to their shops, their workshops, and they've gone to their workshop, they make these products, then we can sell for them. So through this, at the end of the day, it has helped us in terms of engaging different people. Then lastly is in terms of mapping, because for those who are engaged in agroforestry, you can understand that we also have carbon capture. So we are also trying to make sure that these young farmers are also engaged in carbon capture and they can make money from whatever production or whatever engagement they're doing in bamboo. So this is also pushing young people towards large scale production. So it is easy for us to convince a young person that if you plant bamboo when you're in your first year of university, by the time you reach your 4th year of university, your bamboo will have already been grown and ready for harvesting. And by the time you're in your 4 years of your 4 years of school, you can be paid each and every month for carbon capture, and also you can harvest the leaves and also the stems and create items to do with toothpicks, farm products for their cows and also their animals. So using this, it is easy it is easy for a young person to say, okay, I can engage in circular economy. And also bamboo, it is easy to us to say that bamboo is a very good plant that a young person, even if it is at primary level, they can plant. And for the long-term effect, they can also pay their school fees at university level when they plant the bamboo when they were in class 4. So this is something that we are looking at and also targeting. And also targeting those people are at high school level, where at Form 1, we have a project called Adopt a Bamboo Project, where at Form 1, we give you 20 seedlings. You plant these 20 seedlings. And by the time you're going to finish your Form 4, your bamboo has grown. And at the end of the day, at your high school level, you're able to move away from dependency of your parent to interdependency of yourself through your bamboo production and everything. So through the presentation, you can see through the pictures the kind of activities and also engagements that we are having. So you can see there is a lady on your far right. She has a nursery. So the lady who has the nursery, she started with only 50 seedlings of bamboo. Right now, she's giving us 50,000 seedlings of bamboo each and after every 3 months. So you find that you have moved her from just a local farmer. Right now, she's a millionaire at her home, And she's not doing large scale production, she's only doing farming for seedlings. So you'll find her, she has also mobilized young people in her area, and right now they're training and also helping these young people also grow their bamboo production. Can I go to the next slide? Okay, so for now you can see in terms of when I was talking about the innovation center, and I was also talking about the value chain of bamboo. So you look on the far right, that is a seat. So those are seats that are created with bamboo that have gone for 4 years. So this is a young person in Nakuru that you are engaging in bamboo. So for him, he planted his bamboo when he was at high school level, but now he has his own workshop that he creates his seats and he can support himself. So that is what we are doing. On your right, you can see their baskets. So we are also trying to replace these normal baskets with bamboo made baskets for weaving, which can help in terms of growing the enterprise at community level. So you can also see the seats, and you can also see the beauty products. You can see the lady who is holding the earrings, where now we are also engaging different women groups and also girl groups so that they can create their own accessories, so that they do not buy. We do not go, we have African accessories that they can create and they can also sell to help support them in one way or another. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you very much from the Moonlight Initiative. That was very, very, very insightful. You were actually very, very, very loud and clear, so we didn't have a problem with your phone. And
Okay.
you know, I actually grasped a lot of good outcomes that you are actually doing within your initiative.
Yes.
You empower people at community level. So
Yes.
that's actually you taking people from way at the community and providing them with the skill, because you
Yes.
find that more people are in the communities, but no one is there to actually unleash their skill. No one is there to identify their potential. So what you are doing is that you are giving them a chance and an opportunity to actually unleash what they have. And also partnering with the small scale farmers. That's very good initiative, because then it also broadens your production line or your market or your access to market in terms of your products. And also the provision of skills through training. I mean, you're transferring skills. You're not only just keeping the skills to yourself, but you're transferring it to other youth as well, so that they can also prosper in their own ventures through the internship programs that you're also offering as well. And you've also made it very clear that young people are the key players, which is actually what we need to do. We need to make sure that our young people are the key players in many industries, because those then are the people that are going to bring back a long-lasting global sustainable impact. And then the innovation center that you said you have, it has a lot of variety of products that you have within there. So at the same time, still going back to say you have a lot of products that are available within your production line. Are you still going to be with us here, or are you going to? Okay, no, right, because I've got a question for you. Okay, because there is a question for you. Yes, I don't know if So Young Nam is. I see he's still here. There was a question for him. I think we can go to the Q&A. Secretariat, can we go to the Q&A session? We are on time. Mr. Su Young Nam is still here, so that's.
Okay, the reason why Bally's first started its work was that in Korea, there is a type of fish in Korea. And so they were exported to the United States, but then apparently that Korean fish was deemed as the worst fish because the Korean fish was apparently disrupting the ecosystem. And so we heard about that story. And then in the United States, bass, which is eaten by many Americans, came into Korea, but now it's also disrupting the Korean ecosystem. So you have become a disrupting fish, so to speak. And so bass is an American fish, and it was imported to Korea. And the Korean fish actually eventually was exported to the United States. And the reason why, well, it didn't happen naturally. It was actually the result of human activities and a very wrongful kind of thinking on the part of Korea on the part of humans. And so we believe that as consumers, we can find ways to solve ways to stop the disruption of the ecosystem. And that's how we came up with this idea and set up the company Bally's to do so.
Thank you very much for that feedback, Mr. Song Yung Nam. There was another question which was directed to you as well. It says, share your story, how you started the business in very short, and were there any personal motivations? Did you get any personal motivation from somebody?
So anyway, when I found this American fish bass, that's where I got my inspiration. And it was designated as a disruptor in ecosystem, but apparently it's very nutritious. And when it was imported to Korea, it was a fish deemed to be very useful in many different ways. So when I was looking at this American fish bass, I was looking and thinking about us humans. So humans have a lot of prejudices and biases. And sometimes many people judge others just by looking at the appearance. I'm rather big in size, right? But I'm rather inward, and I'm a little bit sensitive when it comes to my personality. And in Korea, because there's a lot of prejudice and a lot of bias, people tend to be quite judgmental. And so just to sum up, when I first found about bass, I thought that I could do some kind of a business of it. And I talked to my friends, then maybe you can do something about the American imported bass. And then I asked my friends, what do you think? And they said that they don't like to eat bass because they feel it's a dirty fish. And so I asked them, have you tasted it? How do you know? And my friends said they've never tasted bass, but nonetheless, they think it as a dirty fish. And so a lot of people, even if they don't have a previous experience, tend to have a very negative kind of perspective towards something. And so through this fish bass, you can actually tell others that you are being judgmental. And also there are many types of life beings that are under prejudice, and I think they will be able to be revalued if we change our perception. And so that's basically my biggest motivation on the personal level of why I started my business.
Thank you very much, Mr. Song Young Nam. That was actually a very good motivation, especially because they say they didn't want to taste the fish. I sure one day would like to taste the fish as well, should we have the opportunity to meet. I would love that. And hopefully we'll meet in Mexico, and then you'll bring the fish with you. There was a common question amongst the speakers that I would like each speaker to answer. Once one speaker has completed with the question, I think the first speaker that is going to answer this question, I'll still remain with you, Mr. Soo Young Nam, and then I'd really like Anisa Aziza to respond after him, and then I'd like Sherry to respond after Naziza, and then I'd also like the Moonlight Initiative to respond. This common question is, what are your current obstacles, and how do you plan to solve it?
So our business is growing, and we are becoming more and more well known in Korea, but we do want to lead to another chapter. So we want to be able to collaborate with various teams outside of Korea. We want to be thinking about these fish who are deemed to be disruptors of the ecosystem. And so our goal basically is to collaborate with companies outside of Korea. But due to the COVID-19, it's really difficult for us to go overseas, and it's really difficult to come back to Korea. And so it's impossible to go abroad at the moment. So international cooperation is the biggest hurdle right now.
Thank you very much, Soyoung Nam. Can I get Anisa to respond to the same question as well? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for the question. As for me, the biggest obstacles that my companies or my startup facing is because the different background of us as a researcher, and then the industry that is construction industry is a very different. Me personally, I'm a young woman, and the industry is dominated by men, middle-aged men. So it is differences in terms of communication and other things. Um, I have personal experience where when the industry, the construction industry, one of the companies looked down at me and saying that, are you really the one who have this innovation? Because he needs someone who look more mature, I think, to have this kind of role. So I think that's the obstacles, and we need to really go through the network and having how to market, how to enter the market while we are from the different background. As for the COVID-19, I think personally the COVID-19 actually beneficial for us because we cannot face them face to face, because we have to do all the communication with the video or call. Then it easier for us to enter their community, because previously we had to attend their gatherings or their construction gatherings, and it's full of middle-aged men. Like we're not feeling like we accepted into that community. But because of using this technology during the COVID-19, it's actually easier for us. We can just invite them into a Zoom meeting and have the conversation. So well, maybe it's different, but for us, I think COVID-19 is actually beneficial for us. Thank you.
And Anissa, for that response, it's actually the first to hear someone say COVID-19 has been beneficial for you. But I hope it's not here to stay as much as it's beneficial for you, but it must just go away. But I'm glad that you find something positive out of it, because, it has brought through to us a lot of negativity, many people being scared, and many people losing focus in their businesses. There's been a lot of disadvantages due to the COVID, but I must say, you've identified a good in the bad, which is definitely connecting the dots, as you said in your presentation. Okay, I'd like now to get an answer from Cherry Sung with regards to the same question, please.
So about the obstacles that I face are, so the government lack the support for our actions. So for example, the government and the ministries would respond initially to our requests for change at first, but then they would not take action afterward. For example, last March, Youth for Climate Korea, the youth climate organization in Korea, sent our request to the Ministry of Education. And since they have responded and made it public that they're going to respond, but until now, not much action had been made. And we had to have another conference with the Ministry of Education just last week. And another example is with the Ministry of Environment. So the last time the Youth for Climate organization met the Minister of Environment, the basic ideas that he has inculcated in our minds is that the ministry and the government know that it is very important to respond immediately to the climate change and the climate crisis, but it is impossible and they would not take action. And that's all that we have basically got from them. And another obstacle is the people, the general public, think that we're like radical. They kind of judge us based on our age, especially, and they think that climate action and those activism are just for our resume. And we are just restricted by those biases and prejudice that we face on a daily basis. So I think that solution to the first obstacle would be guaranteeing practical, real change from the policymakers and the authorities by making them sign a letter or something for our calls and make it public that they're going to take action. So on the last September 25th, our organization had online school strike for climate, and in that we sent out a letter to the congressmen and women asking them to sign the pledge to make sure that they complete the promises that we have sent. And in times of COVID-19, it is actually difficult for us because we cannot do the traditional school strikes for climate and going out on the street and a rally. However, we were able to transition into an online platform and basis where we could spread our message just directly online. And through this, I believe that the Youth for Climate organization expanded a lot. So in March, when there were only about 30 people in the organization, right now there are more than 100. So I believe that that is how COVID-19 brought a little advantage.
Thank you very much, Cherry, for that response. And I've noted the barriers that you have, especially because you cannot get attention for your request. And that can really be a serious setback because you do need the authorities to approve some of your initiatives and the plans. And without their attention and approvals, then your initiatives tends to not move. So that is definitely an obstacle and a barrier in terms of moving forward with your initiative. And also noting that people are being judgmental. It becomes even worse if it's the youth that are being judgmental, because obviously you would expect the youth to be in line with the initiative as much as they would not really understand it, but come and join so that they can learn what is going on instead of being judgmental, because it becomes a problem if you are going to be judgmental without knowing what is happening. So I would really stress for the youth to say, do not be judgmental. Before you are judgmental, go and learn, go and understand what is going on, and maybe you may find yourself joining in. And also the solution that you've outlined, where you are saying you want to sign agreements, like for example your memorandum of understanding or your service level agreements. I think by having those agreements, it'll also outline the key roles and responsibilities of you, and also the leaders, to know what is expected of them, and what are the timelines, because timelines are very critical when you have your initiatives. That will also sort of like solve the challenges that you have. Okay, now I'd like to move on to Moonlight to answer the same question as well.
Number one is ageism, and the biggest problem was us as young people and a young initiative trying to engage different people in this what do you call, in this industry of building, and also trying to replace wood with bamboo. It became a very big problem because people really didn't want to listen to us and also want to talk to us until when we have maybe meetings and that they can hear whatever we are going to share. That is where now they can see we're making sense. But in terms of them giving us an opportunity before even discuss with them, it became a little bit of a problem. Another thing is also adoption of bamboo, because bamboo is a new crop here in Kenya, being majorly focused on in terms of commercial production and also different kinds of production. So its adoption has become a little bit of a problem, where now it is giving us an extra mile to go and train all the members from policymakers, leaders, and also community leaders. Then now we can now get it into now families and also young people to start understanding that bamboo is also a very important thing and we can work with them. So the only way we have been able to mitigate this is through our trainings and community training. As you can see, and as I already told you, we are going directly to the community, because we know if the community understands the benefit, then at the end of the day, it is going to push also the other systems to adopt it. Then another thing is also policy implementation. It has taken long, and until today, the policy implementation of bamboo has not been done here in Kenya, which has become a very big problem in terms of those who are doing large scale production and also small scale production. When you're talking about also young people engaging in bamboo, and also how can we determine the prices of, number one, the stems of bamboo, and also the products that we are having. Because you don't have such kind of a guideline, then it becomes a little bit of a problem, giving in loopholes to different people, so that now they start using and overusing whatever they start manipulating those who are engaging in bamboo. Then another thing is also the wood industry, because the fact of the matter is we are now, it's like we are going against the wood industry, and the wood industry here, especially in Kenya, it is doing everything from household items all the way to art and craft. So we are trying also to now bring in bamboo to do whatever wood is making. And in terms of people accepting and saying that bamboo can do the same way, that it can create the same table that the wood can create, is becoming a little bit difficult, but now through our trainings and also showing them and them seeing the end product is also trying to help us get these people on board. Then now, lastly, we are looking at also the investment into the industry. As you can see, Moonlight Initiative it is led by young people, and in terms of also having money and running and holding these trainings and making sure that the bamboo that is being made is treated well, so that at the end of the day the product is best, is a little bit very expensive for us. So we are trying also to mobilize resources and also getting those people who can invest into the bamboo industry. And the only way they can invest into the bamboo industry is by them seeing how the benefit of bamboo. So it is going to take a little bit of time, but at the end of the day, we know as a people, when we are having also the government making it already as a cash crop, we are seeing that the strides are coming. It is taking a little bit of time, but at the end of the day, we are going to make sure and we are going to move forward. So from the investment and also the information, all those has been a very big problem. But now the biggest opportunity that came with us is, as the last speaker said, it was about COVID-19. For us, COVID-19 it really helped us because now young people were at home. So it was easy to also mobilize and also talk to these people one-on-one, either through online forms, because most of young people are online. So it was easy to hold these trainings online and also showing them the importance of bamboo, training them so that they understand the little bit of basics of bamboo. And through those trainings, we were able to reach a very huge number of people because they were at home. And right now, because the system is reopening, you can see now that the ones now are requesting for physical training and also physical engagements in terms of these different aspects and these markets. So we are trying to mobilize, bringing in different stakeholders and also these young SMEs and SSEs. So we are trying to train them, make sure that they understand the positive nature of the industry and also the negative aspects of the venture, so that at the end of the day they know how they can invest and also how they can get the best out of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that response from the Moonlight Initiative. I've noted that the policy implementation is one of your obstacles, because it's something else having the policy, but then it's another thing when it comes to not implementing the policies. So the policy becomes a nice to have and not a good to have because it's not working. So I think that's definitely an obstacle there. And I've also noted that the good side of solving these issues is that you want to invest into the industry. That I take it will be long-term investments. That is also a very good strategy, turnaround strategy, or production strategy that you are going to take for long-term investment, because that also gives it certainty that there will be sustainability, because there's no initiative that you want to start without wanting it to be sustainable. So that long-term investment will really, and hoping that it will lead you to sustainability. And obviously building up a legacy, because who doesn't want to have a legacy? With all these initiatives that we have as youth, it's very important and very vital that we build legacies that even our own children and grandchildren, greater grandchildren can invest into. And also what I like is that you are solving these issues by mobilizing the different stakeholders. So you're having people buying into your initiative, so that obviously you are able to be as productive as per your plan within your business. There was another question for you, from the Moonlight Initiative. It says, to what extent has the government embraced or supported the initiative?
Okay. So for Moonlight Initiative, in terms of government, right now the government was able to bring in a permanent partnership with us with KEFRI. So KEFRI is the Kenya Forestry Research Institute. So the Kenya Forestry Research Institute, whatever it is doing, it is supporting us and getting the right species and also getting the right trainings in terms of the specialties. Because when you look at bamboo, the different species and different engage in different activities. So whatever government is helping us is giving us these people who understand these kind of aspects, and they're coming to train us for free. Number two, I was looking at also different counties, because Kenya now has different counties. If you look at a county like Busia, right now, they've already started implementing their county policy on bamboo propagation and bamboo conservation in Busia County. So you find that through this county, it is now pushing other counties to start now seeing the importance of bamboo, because now investment now is running towards Busia County, and different stakeholders are running towards Busia County. So through these two main engagement that the government it has tried to help Moonlight Initiative, we have been able to move and also stride. Then the last thing is now, lastly, is now having bamboo being accepted as a cash crop, because a long time ago in Kenya, the bamboo was considered as a grass. So you couldn't engage in anything on bamboo in terms of it being a grass. So you could even start a workshop. You could even be given a certificate to start that workshop. So, but now it being now accepted as a cash crop, now it is easy now for other people, and now started bringing in large scale farmers, because now you can find now large scale farmers are now running towards Moonlight Initiative, asking us now, if it is a 4-year plan, can I give you this number of hectares? Then now you can plant, because through the government it accepting as a cash crop, it is okay for me to say now there is ready market. Even the government is supporting us in terms of market. So those are the three areas that the government is really trying to help and really trying to engage. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I see that we are still within time. I think we only have 3 minutes left within our session. And, you know, for myself, I must say what I've really taken from this session is, especially, I think it was you, Cherry, that outlined this when you said, listen to the youth, act now, involve the youth. I think if I were to be closing now, that is how I would close this session. But I would like to give it to my speakers just to give, just in 30 seconds each, their last words of inspiration or that any youth can take with. I can start with you, Cherry, and then I see Sung Young Man is no longer here. So I can start with you, Cherry, and then go to Anissa, and then we go to Moonlight Initiative, then we can close our session.
As you have said, I would certainly like to close, make the last speech being the listen, act now, and involve youth, because also emphasizing again networking and connecting all youth and all stakeholders, I believe is the most important thing, because that is how we grow people power, and only through people power can we make greater changes. And I believe that it is not late, even despite the COVID-19 and other challenges around the world. It is not late to create changes. In 2020 is October and we still have 2 months left. It is time to start now and then involve everyone so that we can make the better change and a better snowball to roll around the world.
Thank you very much, Cherry. We can hear from you, Anissa.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to add up from what Cherry have said. Like being young, I think is an advantage. We are young, we are open-minded, we are creative, we can connect the dots, and that we should enhance our young people through collaboration with other parties, with other young people to do the networking, and thus we can create bigger impact to the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anissa. And can we hear from the Moonlight Initiative, your closing input?
For me, I'll say, basing on the demographics, it is a reality that at the end of the day, young people should be key in terms of engagements, or when you're looking at community development and also helping people create different solutions to community levels. And it is high time that we can support these SSEs, especially that are led by young people, so that at the end of the day, we can create a generation that understands responsibility and also understands that dependency is very important for any generation in terms of moving forward. So when you're looking at us moving forward, especially here in Africa, we really need to engage these young people and give them these spaces. And these spaces can help them in terms of creating solutions and also being given direction to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Seung Young Nam, your closing remarks?
So it was a really good opportunity for me to be able to listen to many different speakers. There are many different threats that we face. Yes, it was a very good opportunity for me to listen to many different voices. And so there's a lot of discrimination that we all face. We have a lot of prejudice and we work amidst a lot of discrimination. And because of that prejudice, bias, we face a lot of difficulties and we go through a hard time. So I hope that this kind of prejudice and discrimination will all be eliminated at some point so that our youth and the younger generation will be able to become entrepreneurs and impact society in greater ways. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There is a whole lot mouthful. Just to shorten it, it says you need to connect the youth, you need to connect your stakeholders, build people's power. It is not late to create changes. So advantage of being young, so then you can connect the dots. You need to network. Young people should be in key community development. You need to create a generation that takes responsibility. That brings it to our end of our session today. I would like to thank all my speakers. Thank you very much. There was a mouthful and informative presentations. I must say a round of applause to you and to our participants that are listening globally. Thank you very much. We are taking notes of your questions through our chat sessions. Those will also be attended to separately. And to our organizers, thank you very much. Secretariat at the Global Social Economy Forum, thank you very much for offering the youth this opportunity, to actually voice ourselves out and be heard. And we actually hope that we'll meet everybody in Mexico in 2021 in October. Thank you very much. Our session ends here today.